This is All the Way Authentic, a podcast about finding you and being unapologetically you. I'm your host, Kevin P. Henry. On today's program, I interview Julie Cross, who tells us about the life-changing program called Psych-K.
I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington, to two beautiful people, and I have a twin sister and an older sister. I was also blessed to experience more adventure in my life when I met my husband, and we experienced our beautiful life together with our son. I worked in customer service for over 35 years, both in public and private sector. Being of service to others has always been a passion of mine. Finding Psych-K brought a whole new level of meeting people where they are and walking with them on their journey to a more fulfilled life.
Well, tell me more about that, the balance, your beliefs, and the Psych-K and all that. I mean, sounds really interesting. So fill me in on that.
Psych-K, it was founded in 1988 by Rob Williams. I'll just read a little something from him. He is the author of The Missing Piece, and this really describes it well. Psych-K is a simple and direct way to change self-limiting beliefs at the subconscious level of the mind, where nearly all human behavior originates, both constructive and destructive. Its overall goal is to accelerate individual and global spiritual evolution by aligning subconscious beliefs with the conscious wisdom from the world's great spiritual and intellectual traditions. The practical application of this wisdom in our personal and professional lives brings a greater sense of purpose and satisfaction, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Basically, what he's saying there is that we all have beliefs that are programmed into us or hardwired into us at such young ages. And not all these beliefs serve us well. So we call these limiting beliefs. And they are what we do. They are why we do what we do and how we do it. But without really understanding the why. So limiting beliefs or instructions were programmed into us in childhood through parents, grandparents, even teachers and siblings and other authorities. So all of these people in our life had an impact on what formed us as we grew up. So something in your life happens. It creates an event. You create a belief and give it a meaning, and then it is stored in your subconscious mind. Later in life, an event comes to you and it pulls up that memory, that event, that belief, and it attaches it to it. So now you have the connection there. We run 95% on our subconscious mind, 1 to 5% on our conscious mind. So that's how we drive. That's how we get to work. That's how we eat and make coffee in the morning is subconscious. It takes too much effort to use the conscious mind. So as you're going through life and that event comes to you and it's recognized by the subconscious mind, it says something, this reminds me of something in my past. And to change that, we need to give it a new meaning. And we do that with Psych-K. Core limiting beliefs, they impact all areas of our lives. They impact our relationships, such as marriages, partnerships, family, friends, parenting, social life. They impact our career with our performance, our work environment, and even our productivity. They also impact us on a day-to-day factor on how we live, our ability to communicate and focus. And they also impact our relationship with money. And that's just to name a few. Some of these beliefs impact us in the form of ADHD or anxiety or fear, grief, shame, or even guilt, anything that causes you stress, anything that you want to change. So that's where in Psych-K we go in and I help facilitate the process of identifying these limiting beliefs that you would like to change. And then we go through the process of changing it. But before we get into that, Psych-K is also amazing for transforming trauma. And so if you've experienced anything from as little as, and I hate to downplay it, but as little as watching an animal get hit by a car as a child, or experiencing a divorce, either yourself or of your parents, or as egregious as rape or witnessed a murder, all of these are traumas that stay within us. And with that, some people create coping mechanisms to deal with it in life. Some people don't, and they fall apart and they don't know how to manage life. What we do with Psych-K is we go through something where we transform the perception of that stress, help you just totally release that movie in your brain that just keeps playing over, that's driving how you do everything you do. Other traumas are health traumas. So you've been diagnosed with something, and now that is your identity. You've taken that on as an identity. That's not your identity. It is something that has happened. I've worked with individuals who are experiencing a spouse who's in a midlife crisis. So helping the spouse come to acceptance of what is going on in the situation and helping them focus more on what they want to experience in their life and helping them return to calm and peace during the situation. We are reprogramming the subconscious mind with new instructions to help you be able to process this information subconsciously and pass it on to the conscious mind in a way that is more suitable to adult life.
Well, this sounds so critical to just being able to live a better life, because as you said, there's these things that could have happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when you were 8 years old. And if you're not aware of them, but they're still affecting you, it could be the explanation for a lot of behaviors. And then I'm also thinking that a lot of times we're taught, even like males in particular, I think, are taught to repress things like, be tough, don't let it bother you, get over it, those kinds of things. And we truly, really don't, because it's like you say, it's kind of buried in the psyche and, in the body and in the mind. What is your official role? Like if I'm really interested in this, and then I say, okay, Julie, so I really want to dive into this. Where do you come in the process?
My official role, I am a trained Psych-K facilitator. So my role is to facilitate the process of transforming these limiting beliefs into beliefs that help us grow, love, feel, and live a more fulfilling life.
So as a trainer, because, we're all human beings, we have different styles. Is there like a certain style or a certain thing that you bring to your training that you like or you feel, proud of? Basically, what's the Julie Cross approach to this?
The Julie Cross approach. One of the things that I find most helpful through this, which I don't know that any Psych-K facilitator could do this without it, but is really just being present, really just being in the moment with the individual and allowing the space to be theirs, to be a very safe, sacred space. So I'm not a counselor, but this is it really does come in the form of a session where somebody really just wants to talk. So being able to really be present and see them and hear them and really, really feel what they're going through and what they're experiencing or what they are perceiving they are experiencing. I guess my approach is really just to be present and really be that lighthouse for them to be able to be guided to.
Is there like a Psych-K story, either something you're familiar with or something like a personal story? It could be you, or it could just be maybe an example of someone who's kind of gone from point A to point B and wound up, resolving a lot of issues, or really got to a place where their life was a lot better that you can think of.
Oh, absolutely. In 2021, I was faced with a life-altering experience that impacted not only myself, but my family and my friends. As incredibly painful as it was, I found that it was also the most opportune time for learning. I wanted the pain to go away so bad. So I was faced with a choice. I could hide away and not face the challenges I was experiencing, or I could lean in and learn things I didn't even know I could learn or had to learn. So this pain guided me to rise up and say goodbye to my limiting beliefs. I learned who I was, who I am, what I want, and what I can do with my life. And over the next year and a half, I was presented with several more instances of trauma, and I was much more prepared and easily. When I say trauma, I experienced 5 deaths of individuals I love over that year and a half. And as traumatic as they were, I was able to maneuver through them with a whole different sense with each one. And it was really empowering and peaceful along with me. Along this journey, I was introduced to so many people who love and support me. They were invaluable. But the one person that I met along this journey introduced me to Psych-K. And after my first session with her, I was amazed at how simple, how quick, and how lasting this process was in helping me transform past trauma I had endured, both current and historical. Also, identify and release limiting beliefs that were running my life. I found myself on an upward trajectory of healing and learning. And before long, I knew Psych-K was going to be in my life forever. But I've also witnessed friends and family experience such amazing transformations with Psych-K, whether it's health situations transforming for the better, elimination of anxiety, reduction of stress, so many different things, and having such a love of animals. When I found that Psych-K could also help my fur friends, I was all in.
Now, wait a minute. So it can help your furry friends. Could you give us an example of that, how that works?
Well, like this furry one that just jumped up in the background here. I worked with a woman who had a lot of anxiety taking her dog out into public places because it's a pit bull, or she's a pit bull. And in that particular city, that is a banned breed. And so this anxiety transferred from the human onto the dog, creating a real codependent and attachment, which prevented them from going and playing at the park or even going on walks. And so after working with the dog's human, we worked on, went through a few processes with her. I also did a session with the dog, and I heard an update from her 2 weeks later, and they are living their fullest life. They are off leash walking, going to the dog park. She is able to go to her job and not fear of the destruction of her apartment or the reports from the neighbors of the barking. So her fear was deeply embedded because she had a dog that was a banned breed, and she was afraid somebody was going to take it away from her or report her. So this was just an amazing transformation to watch. And so, yes, this is something that is not only for humans. It really does help all of our fur friends. I have another individual who brought in dogs from foster. So we had no history on them. So this isn't a case where the human that is currently with the dog transferred on an emotion or a belief or a feeling, an energy of sorts. And so working with the dog directly found a history of trauma that really just needed to be transformed. And to this day, I visit that dog regularly, and it's amazing the difference. He still has some progress to go, but he's come so far. It's beautiful to know that even our animals don't have to live in anxious society. And with the pandemic, I've heard over and over how many animals have been introduced to separation anxiety because now their humans home all the time. And then now their human leaves and they freak out. So that's something right there that was learned and can be transformed.
Well, I know I'm not a pet owner, but I know so many people and have seen so many people that, basically the dog or the cat is a member of the family. Cat or dog plays such an integral role and their emotional well-being, and especially during COVID when you're locked down and you don't have any companionship. But I was just on a flight recently where they had a dog flying as well, and the attachment that the dog had with his owner was you could tell was so calming for the owner, and the dog didn't make a peep the whole flight. This is like almost a 3-hour flight, so. It's nice that it can have that ripple effect and affect not only the human but an integral part of the human's life, in the form of a pet. So, how do people contact you? What's the best way to contact you?
The best way to contact me is through my website, balanceyourbeliefs.com, and that is balance-your-beliefs.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, and you can book right off of my website. You can send me questions right off my website. There's all the information you could possibly want and some resources to really get to understand what Psych-K is and how it could benefit you.
You have been listening to All the Way Authentic. Special thanks to my guest, Julie Cross. I'm your host, Kevin P. Henry.